Hello, everybody. Just 1 second. Some equipment failures. So hi, everybody. Welcome back to the second part of our chatbot building adventure. My name is Arta Zielinski. I'm from CRM Bot, and I will be demonstrating today a couple of new things. So we're going to build on top of our chatbot that we built last week. And we're going to add two things. We're going to first of all look at building some authentication. And secondly, we're going to look at adding some capability to answering basic questions with our QnA Maker integration. And lastly, we will briefly look at the real-time translation capabilities. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to just share my screen now. And we can start by looking at our existing diagram. So this is what we've built last week, very basic welcome. Then we create a case, people can upload evidence, and then we can get responses from system users. So what we're going to do is we're going to essentially add an extra step here, and we're going to say, and we're going to say authenticate. And then when we, don't know why it's doing that, but the bottom, what basically we're trying to do is we're saying first what we're gonna say is, 1 second. So what we're gonna do is when you open the chatbot, we're gonna say, okay, we don't know who you are. We're gonna ask you to sign in, and then when you do, you will be providing us with your email address. We're gonna send you a an email with the security code. You're gonna enter that code, and you're gonna be let in, or you haven't. So all of that we will build within the next, 5 to 10 minutes. It's that simple. So let's get started. So what we first need to do is we need to open our design time. So this is where we create the actual intents. And we can see that our showcase chatbot has two new intents. One is called email. The other one is called OTP check. These are the two new intents that I've created. The email intent, if I open it up, is simply an enabled for flow email standard text intent. It's got a new thing that I've not shown you before. It's got a parameter. So essentially the $mark before the name of the training phrase means that we're essentially asking people to provide a parameter of a type email. And that email is required, meaning that if you say something that's going to trigger email intent, but we're not going to get that it's an email, we're going to essentially ask for it again. So we're going to say, okay, what's your email? Anyway, the second intent is OTP check. This one is not really very exciting. Here we've got some examples of essentially security codes that you may provide, and all we really care for is just that it's enabled for flow. There isn't really anything interesting going on here. So how it's gonna work? So what we need to do first is we need to, I'm just going to put that to the side. What we need to do first is we need to go and edit our welcome intent. So the welcome intent doesn't actually tell you that you can create case. For those of you who don't remember, let's just say, imagine all of you, at the moment when you open our chatbot, we trigger a welcome intent that says, hi, welcome, create a new case. We don't want to let you to create a new case unless you're authenticated. So we're going to have to change it. So what we do is we go into showcase part 2, open our welcome flow. That's the flow that's just been triggered 16 seconds ago, and I'm going to edit it. Now, I am going to help myself by copying and pasting from a second repository just to save time and to eliminate spelling mistakes. But rest assured, all of that can just be essentially typed in. So instead of saying to create a case, we're going to say, in order to create the cases, you have to sign up, which makes sense. And we're going to say, this is a register button, and this is going to be sign me up. And then that's it. And then we send that response back. So now, when it's saved, So now when we say hi, okay, we've got register intent. So what we'll do then is we will go and create a new email fulfillment record. And that one, unfortunately, we're going to have to create from scratch. But that's okay. We've done quite a few of those last time round. So we're just going to call it email. And we want to trigger it on email, unspecified. What we then want to do is we just want to create a basic chat. So I'm just going to actually copy this from some other I can copy it from here. That's brilliant. Oh, I wonder why it doesn't appear. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That copy doesn't quite work sometimes. Anyway, let's just quickly create it. Right, call it chat. This is, for those of you who don't remember, this is where we essentially establish link with the chat session that's in our dynamics, and that allows us to do quite a few cool things down the line, like recognize who you are, take your details. So we just need to essentially filter this, and then we're gonna get that record. And this is a trick I've shown you last time, where instead of looping through each result of the array, what we do is we simply do this outputs thing, and we specify that we want the first one. I'm not going to repeat myself. We've done it all last time. So, okay, so this is our chat. That's all we need. And then what we want is we want to add a new email, add the email record and the random code that we've generated to the chat session, so we can actually inform you about it. If that doesn't make sense, it will do in a second. So what we need to do is we want to update an existing chat session in Dynamics. And trying to be too quick. And the row ID is, of course, the chat session that we just got. That's why we're getting it in the first place. And then here, what we want to do is we want to scroll. Actually, let's just type in. And you see when you put the email, you've got this parameter that we've defined in a chatbot. So whenever somebody tells us their email, we can use that in our flow. Brilliant. And then here, simply what we're going to do is we're going to do a random. And I always like to do starting from something that starts with 1000. So I basically always have 4 digits. So it's going to be 1000 or any number between 1000 and 9999. If you want to make it extra secure, you can obviously keep building this, but I think it's plenty secure for our needs at the moment. And then what we do is we essentially respond by saying something like that. Okay, and let's send that response. All of that should be relatively straightforward. Okay, let's test this. So I'm gonna click register. Okay, it's gonna say, okay, you want to sign up, but what's the email address? I'm gonna provide an email address. And then I'm gonna get this response. So it means my flow has worked, which means if I now go back to my dynamics and look at the chat sessions and look at the latest one, you should see that we've got the OTP code. We're not actually sending that OTP code, but we could do. I mean, let's just simply add it. So after we update it here, we simply add a new mail action. I like to use Office 365 for Outlook. Yes, please. And I want to send an email. I think I've already got my connections for Outlook somewhere in this environment. That should be fine. Oh, or maybe I don't. One sec. Right, let me just try with different credentials. Just 1 second. Apologies for that. Okay, we're back. And now we can see that we've got that email here. So I'm going to say, okay, what I want to do is send that email to the person. And we're going to say your code is, and we're going to say this is the OTP code that we've just generated. That's it. There's no need to send a body. So that's it. Let's see. I'm going to retest this flow. Let's see if we can send that email. Okay, email is sent and it's 2464. So let me just check. Is it 2464? It is indeed. So here, if I respond saying 2464, probably nothing will happen because we've not built that part yet. But you see, that's the whole concept. So we send somebody an email, they read it. I mean, it's basic stuff. So anyway, let's build the second part, which is the OTP check. So that's the bit that really is probably a little bit more complicated than what I've shown you. Right, so let's create yet new Cloudflow and we'll call it OTP check. We of course want to use CRM Bot connector, and we want to do it on the when somebody provides an answer. First thing we want to do is we want to pass that JSON. So we're gonna actually take some details from the body of the payload. I'm just gonna help myself by copying the schema, but you know how to generate a schema if you need to. Then we've got this whole chat. So once again, I cannot use this. Weird. Just actually open the solution again. I just want to see if maybe copying and pasting will work again for me. It really should do. Okay. So, no, wow. That is so weird. Right. Anyway, let's create it from scratch yet again. So, called chat. List rows, and then it will be get row. Sorry, I just done it so many times by now that I seem to remember it by heart. So I'm gonna, of course, it's chat sessions. This is our filter. Of course, it's chat session again. And you know the trick, put outputs and get sorted. I just want to make sure that it's named correctly, get chat. This is, by the way, a small lesson that always follow the naming, whatever naming convention you assume. For stuff that should be patterned like this, you want to keep it consistent. So find chat always means go through a list of records and find the one you want. Get chat means get that one record from a list. So always follow certain naming. It will be a lot easier for you to navigate through flows you've built some time ago. And then simply what we do here is we're going to check that ATP OTP. I mean, that's a given, right? So we're going to say text. So this is what somebody says in the chatbot equals OTP code, of course. Basic. And then if it doesn't, we're going to say try again. I mean, typically what you would do is you would reset the code and say try again, knowing that you're going to send a new code to avoid people being able to brute force it and essentially, go through it 100 or 1,000 times. But this is if we were building a real applications, of course we would do it. For this sort of demo, it makes zero sense for me to spend more time on this than is necessary. Language, and then we're sending that text message. That should be fine. And then if it is true, then in fairness, we want to just send a very simple message saying, well done, or you're in, or something like that. Let's have fun. Say you're in. Let's do that. And then we're gonna send that response again. By the way, if you wonder why we've actually separated send response and build a response, is that it allows us to actually have some fun when we build responses. And, not for this flow, but for some other flows, you will see how complicated it can get, that we can generate a number of different responses and only then actually respond. So yeah, never mind. So I'm gonna just look at chat sessions again. Very eager. And then, of course, that's just our standard chat session. And what we're doing here is we're essentially saying that this person is authorized. And that's how we check that and one last thing, when we send that response, what we will do is use a new functionality that I've not shown you before, is our ability to trigger events. So we're going to respond with you're in, but then we're going to trigger events saying, welcome that person again. And why are we welcoming them again? Because now we've updated that person is authorized to use our chatbot. Now, what does that mean? It means that we can actually build some extra logic in our welcome flow that's gonna now check if somebody is authorized to go further. Remember that welcome 1, welcome 2. So that's what we're doing now. We're doing the welcome 2 part. So just 1 second. Just 1 second. I'm just trying to find out where exactly is it that we put the. Yes, of course. So there is that condition. Sorry, apologies about that. Apologies for that. So basically, what we do here is before we respond with the standard sign up, we're going to do a new condition, and we're going to say, is that authorized from our get chat? Is that equal to true? And you see, the logic is that if we get the chat, I mean, if we create a new one, we have to go through authentication, it's fine. But if we get the chat, means that there is already a chat session and it's authorized, then we can actually trigger a new card and we're going to build a separate card. And this is what I meant when I said that it's extremely flexible and straightforward to be flexible. But more importantly, it's very flexible tool. You can build in one flow a very complex logic in terms of checking, if you're that sort of person, you see this. If you're that sort of person, you see this. And it makes the whole experience that much more interactive and conversational. So yeah. Anyway, we're just gonna do send response now. No custom dictionary this time. Wait for part 3. So this will be coming at some point. And then I'm sending this message, and then that's pretty much it. Oh, what's important is that I actually terminate it here, because if I actually don't terminate it, we don't want to run through that second part here. So that's it. That's our authentication. So let's just see it in practice. So I'm starting a new session. I need to register. I'm going to provide my email address. I'm going to, well, I could look into my emails, but there's no need. Let's just look at the chat session. There it is. And you see that person is not authenticated yet. Sorry, going back to I'm going to reply with the security code. It's gonna say you're in because we accept, and I see that's a different welcome message. And that welcome message you only get if you follow this path. You will never get to this welcome message otherwise. That's the beauty of using sort of the same intent with different flags. So now we can go through and just follow the standard new case approach, which we've seen already. But let's just briefly, for those of you who've not watched part 1 yet, let's just briefly demonstrate what we built last time around. So we're going to create a new case. We're going to say it's a mobile phone. My screen is cracked. I'm going to create that case. And here we're going to just take a picture. And yeah, and you can see you've got all this stuff. Apologies. So 1 second. It just came to my attention that we may not be actually streaming. Just 1 sec. Okay, seems like we're only live on Twitter. Well, hey ho. Never mind. Oh well. Let's go back to this. So yeah, so next thing we will do is we will actually very briefly look at the QnA Maker functionality. I hope the authentication process made sense. It was very brief, very quick, very sort of simple, but it demonstrates the concept. So now we're going to focus on QnA. So let me just explain first of all what QnA Maker is and how it works, and for those of you who are not familiar. So QnA Maker is a Microsoft product. It's part of the Cognitive Service Pack that allows you to build those very basic question and answer questionnaires. It does have few additional capabilities. I'm just opening it now so I can show you, like an ability to put perhaps some follow-up questions, and the ability to format it is very straightforward to use and is pretty much free or next to free unless you're using really a lot of questions. I like to use it personally for a lot of my sort of smaller projects. You can actually upscale it and do different things with cognitive services, but we're not going to get to that yet. So it looks something like that. I'm just waiting for it to load now. Still loading. Any minute now. There it is. So we just have essentially 85 small language or little talk, I think it's called. It's essentially you can define different personas, and at least for English it's going to be quite good. It is quite good in terms of handling the basic questions, and here you can add your own questions, saying we're going to say something really daft, but it seems to be very slow. Apologies. So I'm just going to say it's Wednesday, and the question will be what day of the week it is. I mean, not the most inspired choice ever, but hey ho, it will do the job. I actually want to do something else, so let's just search for an image of Wednesday. Maybe this one will be good. No, I want an image that's an actual. That will work. Maybe not. Oh no, it will. Fine. So I just want an image. I need to stop pressing the button so quick. It is a little bit slow with the streaming, I think, going on. It's at least 5-second delay. At least 5 seconds. Yeah. So, and then you can include links and other things. But anyway, let's just, given that it's so slow, I'm just gonna publish this. Yay, and I can publish. So whilst it's publishing, I'm just going to explain the rest of the application. So in our bot design, what you'll see against an agent is that we've got a knowledge base part where you can put your resource name and the key and all that stuff. It's all explained in our documentation pretty well. And essentially that's how you connect to the Q&A. So now if we try to be clever and say stuff like how are you, or literally anything. I mean, I don't want to put more extreme examples, but pretty much anything you try, it will do something about that. You can actually do something like profanity filter, moderation, and all that cool stuff. And the cool thing is that now, what day of the week? It should reply, and it should incorporate stuff like images as well as follow-up questions and other things. Now, some people asked me before, how accurate do you have to me? And of course, this is natural language understanding solution, so you don't have to be that accurate. What is today's day of the week? Something like that, which would be a different way of asking that question. Should still. Oh, yeah. So what is day of the week? Yeah. So it's not super clever, but it's clever enough. And I mean, it's unlikely that somebody will run into this particular issue. What is, however, very, very cool is our ability to translate this stuff. So I've mentioned before in a previous part that I will talk a little bit more about translation. And let's just show what that means in practice. So in reality, what we have is a chatbot that can deal with a lot of stupid questions. What's your name? All that sort of stuff is basic. Now, what happens if I ask what's your name in Polish, which is jak masz na imię? So, and you can see from my reply is that actually what it does is it reads that message, it translates it into English, and then it applies the logic that it would apply to English, gives the response in English, and then translates back to Polish, which means that it's not going to be perfect. And for stuff like how are you, and then jak się masz, which is the Polish equivalent, it works absolutely fine. For stuff like wie heißt du, which is a German for what's your name, and you see that's the reply. So yeah, so because of CRM Bot native capability of translating between entities and our ability to define, and you see this is why most of our flows, you see when we send a response, we have to define the target language, and we set this as default to be the language that it came in, but it could be that you want to define the language that you respond to. That's quite commonly the case. But if you don't, then you see as long as your bot design part, which is the part where you actually train the chatbot to recognize certain intents, that's the only bit where you have to actually manually provide the training phrases. So I'm just saying here, hi, if I wanted my chatbot to work in Polish, all I would have to do is add a Polish phrase here. So if I say something like dzień dobry, which is equivalent of good morning or hi in English, and I'm going to publish that flow. This will be lasting, by the way, we do, because I think the broadcast has overrun a little bit. So we're going to wrap it up after this. I'm just going to briefly publish this, and then we're going to see if our chatbot is now capable to actually start in Polish. And you see, because everything else gets auto-translated, whilst you can apply your own dictionaries, that bit is the only bit that you need to provide yourself. Sorry, the publishing session is still not coming up. I wonder, have I even clicked it? Just refresh. No, nothing seems to appear. Okay, let me just click it again. It seems to not have not actually registered. Whilst this is happening, I'm just gonna briefly just check the backend. So it just took some time. It's appearing now. We've got 2 publishers, so probably one of them will fail. Let's just refresh a few more times. Hopefully it will happen. Seems to get stuck. Anyway, as soon as that clears, hey, both of them cleared. So now we can actually check this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start in English, which is fine. And then I'm going to say dzień dobry. And that worked. And you see the card itself translated back to Polish, because so you need to just build everything in English or in your default language, whatever that is. And then your translation, it's sort of unnecessary. All you need to do is just give me the type of things you need for people, which phrases or words should trigger which intents, and then build everything in default language, and it will auto translate. So then we could keep going and actually put a training phrase for zarejestrować, which means register. So we can actually continue this in Polish, but we're not going to do it today. That's all we've got time for today, I'm afraid. So we're going to come back to this probably next week, maybe in 2 weeks, but maybe next week, we'll see. And then we're going to essentially wrap it up with some of the final developments that we have in the sphere. But what we've done so far is we've got a fully working chatbot with case management, small talk, Q&A, real-time translation, and authentication. All of that has been done in CRM Bot in under 90 minutes. And you could do it yourself. All you need to do is just go onto our website, crmbot.ai, and click on the Contact Us button or the Talk to Me Now, which I'll show to you now. And you can book a session with me. Sorry, it's called Free POC. You can book a meeting with me or one of my colleagues, and we can go through your chatbot requirements. If you want to find out more, just reach out to me. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.